Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. So the news this week is Gibson came out with a new series of acoustic guitars. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about these today, so if you're not into this topic, you can skip a little bit further into the video. But these new acoustics are kind of interesting. Okay, so they're calling this the Generation Collection, which is, I believe, what they called the G45 before this. To be honest, I kind of forgot all about these guitars. They were introduced in 2019 as a budget-level Gibson acoustic guitar. I think they were $1,000 and $1,300, depending on what type of trim level you wanted, but they were just supposed to be a good value for a USA-made guitar that had a traditional neck join, none of the bolt-on neck or anything like that. But the thing I always liked about these things is you could find some interesting wood grain patterns in the walnut backwoods. Sometimes there would actually be like white stripes in the back, like this one's a very nice book match that's here on Reverb today. But this was one of the very earliest ones made, 2018 serial number, but still under the 2019 moniker. But anyways, those old ones have been discontinued for this new one. And Gibson's really stepping up their website here. They've got a frame-by-frame video that you can scroll through here. So what makes this thing different is what they're calling the Gibson player port on the side. Essentially, it's a second sound hole, so you can hear yourself play the guitar better. That's really fascinating to see Gibson get into this market. That is not necessarily a new technology. They're billing it as they had a 1964 blueprint in the Gibson archives, and that's why they decided to start to use it. There's other manufacturers that have done it. I really don't know too much about them. I've never played a guitar that had a sound port on it, but we have talked about them before. You can check out this video, the Gibson Shark. It was an L5 Archtop done up by Bruce Kunkel. It had multiple sound ports on the side here, you can see. It was a beautiful flame figured side, but they had all these sound ports. Even the sound holes on this particular one were kind of cool. It was made to be like a gill slit on a shark. But perhaps the first time I saw it was actually in this video right here, when they were doing a couple of prototype guitars for other style vintage Archtop guitars. I particularly liked this one right here because it had a giant sound port on the side, and I always wanted to try that thing out. It was such a different but unique guitar. So now we're seeing Gibson incorporate this on a more budget-friendly level model. I'm curious to see if these things are going to sell well for them or not. My first impressions is they kind of look cheap for the price. I wish they would offer more colors, but at least we're now offering different body styles. So the first one is the G00. It's like a parlor-sized instrument. That, it's actually kind of cool. I'm glad that they're offering these different body styles because that's something that they didn't quite do in the last generation series. But a sound port on a small parlor-sized instrument? Man, there's so many holes in this thing. If you want to check out a parlor-sized instrument, you can check out my Nick Lucas special video to learn how that guitar actually correlates to SpongeBob. But the next body style is the G45 based on a J45, just like the last series, except for this time we've got sound holes, and it looks like they're $200 more expensive. Which, given the economy and everything, it seems about right. But we also have the G-Writer series based on their Songwriter model. I could see a lot of people getting behind this model. Like, it's such a modern acoustic. It's got interesting fretboard inlays. Like, we'll talk about the specs and materials here in a minute. But interestingly enough, they leave all the headstocks on these just plain. And then we've got the G200. This one, I don't know. It's $2,000. I feel like it should be fancier than what it is at that price point, but then again, to get a very fancy J200, I think those start around like, what, $4,000? So, relatively speaking, this is still cheap for this body style. But the two that most interest me, honestly, are the 00 and the Writer series. I'm not sure if I want to do a full review and demo or not, but maybe I'll pick one up for just like an unboxing because it's really just going to be the first impressions of, having one of those sound ports on the side. But I guess if you really want me to review one, let me know down in the comments. But as far as the specs, they're still using the walnut bodies, which means you can get a bunch of different figuring patterns. Like, for example, we can go to Sweetwater right now, and they've got 4 of the G45s we can look at. This one, it appears they forgot to turn the lights on. But you look at the backs of them, this one's got light streaks right here. This one's pretty uniform. That one's got like a neck through vibe going on. It's not. So you really got to shop around on these. Sometimes you can find some cool ones. Doesn't look like they have the 00 photos up yet. All the G200s look pretty uniform for the most part. I kind of like this one though, it has a little bit more of a red tint to it. And unfortunately at the time of recording, none of the writers. However, on top of that, they're using striped ebony for the fretboard, so kind of interesting materials. But now moving on to some other topics that are also related to extra holes in guitars. It's hard to look at, but let's take a look at this thing. So apparently this is a vintage ES-175 that somebody put a sound hole in the front. You're welcome. So this is one of those versions that originally had just one P90 pickup in it. So this thing originally looked like this, or something similar. I guess it could have started life as a natural one, but it had one of the trapeze tailpieces, a floating bridge, a single P90 pickup, some sort of a gorgeous finish with 2 knobs on the front and a pickguard, Florentine cutaway and all. And today it looks a little bit worse for repair here, but you could make it something different. But it appears they enlarged the F-holes and chopped out a sound hole in the middle. Like, why? I mean, it would probably project more. Maybe that's what it was. They didn't understand what this instrument was or what kind of value it had. It's just like that 54 Les Paul that we reviewed. Back in the day, it wasn't like this super rare, sought after, highly valuable thing as much as it is today. It was just a used guitar that had some value to it. Whereas whoever had this, they might have needed a louder acoustic guitar. So what do? They thought, hey, opening up a sound hole might be good. Oh boy. But I mean, the headstock looks okay. I mean, I think it would make a lot of people happy if this just turned out to not be a Gibson at all. The frets definitely look like they need some significant work. There's a lot of divoting in the fretboard. I mean, we do have the correct ES-175 sound hole sticker in there, including a serial number. And maybe like a poor refinish attempt, or somebody started to sand this down a little bit more. I'm not quite sure what was going on there. Okay, maybe that's why the F-holes look so strange, because they also have that dark outline to them. You can kind of see that there. But it does have the original 2 posts right there for that. And this hole right here is how they ground off the trapeze. So all right, it's looking okay there. Then you move on to the back. Maybe this one started life as a cherry sunburst, or was refinished that at one point in time, because that's looking like it still has some cherry stain to it. Any breaks, cracks, or repairs? Just a little bit of the binding chipping off. That's easy enough to fix. I mean, as long as the top isn't ultra saggy and the neck doesn't need reset, this would probably be a fairly... Hey, there we go. Got another sound port. Nah, the reason why somebody did that was probably to work on the electronics, because some guys, they just didn't have the right tools. Like, it's pretty easy to buy the right stuff today, but back in the day, they just had to get in there somehow. Like my ES-295, that old 50s one that I had. You check out this old video on that. Fantastic guitar. It met the same fate as this. Somebody just cut a big access plate out of it and then put a metal covering over top of it when they were done. It certainly beats trying to fish it through the F-hole. But man, what was going on here? After they cut it, it looks like there's nails in the wood and stuff. It's a DIY sound port. Ah man, they've even got some significant cracks on the side. Like, it's at this point, it's like, is it even worth saving? It looks like it might have even started life as a factory second. It appears to be a 2 stamped up there. I mean, the right guy, if you wanted to restore it back to original, could probably put a new top on it. But at this point, you probably need new sides as well, maybe even the back. You'd probably be better off just putting this neck on a brand new build, or just refinishing it as is, assuming it works, and enjoying it for its own unique personality. But let's see what the seller says here, because this was only $500, so to be fair, a vintage ES-175 needing work, that seems about right. I'm not surprised it sold. They don't seem to know what year this one particularly was, but that serial number might help you date it, but it certainly looks old to me. And to end out our theme of adding holes in guitars, here's a Les Paul Standard from 1976. Okay. So we've got a Bigsby. Looks like it's on a Vibramate though, so that means you should be able to remove it. Bridge has been replaced with a metric style one. I guess it could be Tone Pros. It's kind of hard to see. You'll be able to see when I zoom in though. And then we've got, looks like maybe Seymour Duncan pickups in here. So it's possible this started life as a deluxe and somebody routed it out. You can also see our toggle switch has clearly been replaced on that because Gibson ones don't stick up that far. Probably all this white plastic cream has been replaced as well. But did you notice this? Oh man, I'm hoping that's just a plate that they put on there for aesthetic reasons, and they didn't actually have to route this guitar out. I'm not sure if there's photos on this listing or not, because generally Les Pauls are back routed. Not all of them, like Les Paul Recording, for example, that'd be one that's a top route. But the serial number does say it was a Les Paul standard. It's from 1976. Looks like somebody installed Schaller tuners on this at one point in time that were upside down. It's either that or please fill me in. What tuner uses one right here? Because normal Schallers go down here. So all I can think of is somebody installed them upside down and on the other location, because that would line up. But maybe there's a tuner I'm not familiar with. Our headstock, super aged. Apparently this one's just a Les Paul mod instead of a Les Paul model. Oh man, that's beautiful. I wonder if that was done on purpose because this thing has clearly been modified. I mean, it almost looks like there was some sort of like a sticker or something over top of the finish here. You can see how it's not all checked. It's a little bit cleaner looking. So I wonder if that sticker or whatever was there ripped off the E and L for model. But continuing on here, unfortunately, doesn't look like the seller has any gut shots for us, which is very unfortunate. I mean, it doesn't look like there's any breaks, cracks, or repairs. But even the back plate was extended. So that makes me think somebody has potentially opened up the top, routed it through, and then maybe even took like a Dremel bit to weight relieve it from the inside. There have been crazy things done to Les Pauls. Like there's that one photo that circulates the internet all the time where somebody actually just routed the wood out back here and then put like a back plate over top of the guitar to hide that. You can check out this Candy Apple Red standard video where somebody did something similar to that. So that's a little anticlimactic. Let's see. Does he say anything in the description? He's owned it for 15 years. He says it sounds and plays well. And it seems like he got it in pretty much disarray and then took it to some sort of a luthier who kind of made it into what it is today. But unfortunately, no inside shots, no detailed story as to what went on. I'll be honest, kind of surprised it's still brought in 18, but I guess at the end of the day, it's a 70s Les Paul standard. Even though they're not my favorite, that doesn't mean they're not good guitars. I much prefer the customs because they pull off the big headstock better. If I'm going to buy an older standard, I'm going to get an 80s one. They're just better in my opinion. However, when it comes to deluxes, I expect them to have the big headstock. So it's just a matter of personal preference. So hey, if you bought this guitar, send me some photos. You'd be surprised how many people actually end up watching my show and what guitars I talk about actually end up falling in the hands of viewers, especially when it comes to the demo shop stuff. Alright, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.